The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Two weeks ago, Matt Cook was able to bring himself onto victory lane at the Pocono 500. With just 4 rounds to go, Cook still has 138 points to make up to be able to take the championship lead off of Henry Bennett, which as every race passes, looks even less likely. Today we head to the state of Ohio, to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for 200 miles of action-packed racing. Jack Stiles alongside Neil Heatley with Randy Chenworth on the cameras for you today. And Neil, this is a circuit which always gives good action, and today, with the added challenge of the chicane between turn 1 and the hairpin onto the back straight, this 200-mile race is going to be a challenge for all of the drivers on the field.
It certainly is going to be a challenge. As we said, always provides exciting racing. The main overtaking point here at Mid-Ohio would be turn 4 in the modern configuration, but it's turn 6 here. Indeed, it is going to be the first corner of today's race because, of course, Mid-Ohio has a slightly unique start line, doesn't it?
Yes, although the iRacing session will go green as they head across the main start-finish line, the field has been instructed to stay bunched up under the control of the pole sitter until the very last moment, heading down the back straight into the kink. Joshua Chin currently sat on provisional pole with just 15 seconds remaining in qualifying, and obviously qualifying is very important here, Neil, because Mid-Ohio, it's a very tight course. Passing opportunities only come in a few paces on the lap.
It's a very, very tight, very technical course, and of course, in this, with using the chicane just before the modern turn 2, that arguably takes away an overtaking opportunity. So yes, that main overtaking opportunity is going to be down into China Beach, where they reach the maximum velocity on this Mid-Ohio circuit, 3.86 kilometers and 15 turns this variation.
And well, as the drivers head themselves down to form up behind the iRacing pace car, we can take you through your 23-car field, taking to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course today. On pole is Joshua Chin, a 1 minute 8.586. Alongside him is going to be Matt Cook, currently second in the championship. Championship leader Henry Bennett going to be lining up third, with Robert Grosser alongside him fourth. Timo Sinyemi and Jan Hoffman make up row 3. Lucas Seville and Benjamin Gregory going to make up row 4. Row 5 in the top 10, rounded off by Randy Shoemake and Kyle Speedston. Row 6, Carson Brodby, David Costello, Francesco Stum and Marshall Stanley rowing up on row 7. Johnny Garrett, Randy Crosno on row 8, Mike Gallagher and Andrew Aitken on row 9. Mile McBride and Andrew Adair Saunders going to round out for the top 20. Bessie Ollier going to line up 21st, and the final driver to set a qualifying time, Adam Dodd, Andrew Wood, Caleb Weakley and Jonathan Diggs are the final 4 competitors in this race. And this start is going to be very important because the track position into turn number 1 on the start, which is the right-hander before you head over the top of the hill, Neil. Very, very critical to get that right.
It is, and the corner just after that, the left-hander, you're cresting and trying to put the power on at the same time whilst turning. Expect to see a little bit of action there today, perhaps a few people losing control of the rear ends of their cars. But yes, the variation that we're using today was used in real life between 1983 and 1989. 7 races held on this layout with this length. Bobby Rahal and Teo Fabi both won twice. Mario Andretti, Roberto Guerrero and Emerson Fittipaldi each taking 1 win. But the question is, who's going to join them today?
Indeed, so we will be finding out in around an hour and 45 minutes time. An 84-lap race will mean that we will be going the 200-mile distance to finish off this one. The iRacing pace car sets off, and Joshua Chin, the iRacing Indianapolis 500 winner this year, is going to set off behind it. Josh will, of course, be under the control of the field as they head through turn number 1, through the chicane. The chicane is going to be interesting, and you'll see it in a few moments on your screen once the field gets around to it. So the pace car will dive off to the left. Usually this would be the point, and as we do get green, you'll just have to ignore that for a couple of moments. The field will stay nice and bunched up. Looks as though 20 21 cars have taken to the grid. 20 cars have taken to the grid. If you're deciding that it's not beneficial to start this race or not having any reason to. They're all going to swap sides as well. So the pole position is on the right-hand side of the field. And as everyone heads through turn 1, Neil, the adrenaline will be rising. And they just need to compose themselves ready for the start.
Yes, everyone's a bit nervous for the start. Everyone starting to envision what their first lap is going to look like. But yes, that first turn 1, normally they're approaching it at a great rate of knots. But of course, they're going to have cold tyres, cold brakes, and approaching it at a lower speed. So expect to see a couple of fireworks.
As they head out of the hairpin today, that is going to be turn number 4. Heading down to the start zone. The gantry is on the left-hand side for the drivers. They are now in the zone where the drivers can accelerate when they wish. And we are green at Mid-Ohio. Josh Chin gets an absolutely incredible start. Henry Bennett manages to follow, so Matt Cook already pushed down to 3rd. Grosser trying to attempt to pass on Cook into turn number 1 as Cook goes off on the left-hand side. He's got loose on the cold tyres, not keeping the heat in there. He's going to cycle right outside of your top 10, so Henry Bennett getting an absolutely lightning start. But for the logical vortex drivers of Robert Grosser and Team Ursin Yami, they were having a good scrap into that first corner as well.
Having a good scrap into this first corner, yes, but Joshua Chin with that big lead already, just going to come across the start-finish line in a couple of moments. You get to see what sort of gap he managed to pull out in the first lap. But yes, that Joshua Chin in that number 93 car, a fantastic start from him. There's Henry Bennett in the 007 room. Robert Grosser rounding out your top 3. But yes, Chin with that 1.2 second lead after the first lap. And you can see them coming through the chicane for the first time at racing speeds.
As Robert Grosser, he's got Jan Hoffman behind. Hoffman was a driver at Pocono where in the mid stages of the race he was up at the front of the field. Bennett moves to the right hand side of the course. So they head down the straight once more. Lap number 2, with 82 laps to go, so you don't want to be attacking too hard. Heading down into turn number 6. And Grosser not going to bother to challenge this time. Of course, the Classic IndyCar Series is supported by Logical Innovative Engineering and your real timing. There is a prize for the safest driver, the driver with the least incident points in this event. They will win themselves a pro key to Joel Real Timing. And it's an app that every iRacing member should look into at least trying once in a while, because it does give you some good insights into what's going on around you as they head through the final complex of this circuit, through the carousel for the second time. Joshua Chin already extended his lead out to 1.6 seconds, Neil, setting the fastest lap of the race so far, a 1 minute 10.407. The next quickest is the likes of Henry Bennett and Robert Grosser, and they're still half a second slower.
Yes, a 1 minute 10.4, just under 2 seconds off of qualifying time round here. So certainly not slacking at all, but this course is fast and furious as the race leader Joshua Chin comes down through the king. That very slight right-handed corner, the braking hard for China Beach at about 170 kilometers an hour, so certainly not slacking. Henry Bennett in that 007 car still second, Grosser third, Jan Hoffman fourth, and Timo Isanemi in 5th place in that number 33 car. But everything seems to have been slightly calm, and everyone seems to have kept their head for the first couple of laps.
Well, the Finn, Timo Isanemi, currently sitting in 5th, is under pressure from the Brit Benjamin Gregory in the number 13. Looking like he's going to get himself. He's had a bit of a break over the last 2 rounds, missing some of the oval races back for Mid-Ohio this week, so he wants to try and get a good position. Vital points for the championship. Jan Hoffman piling the pressure onto Robert Grosser for 3rd position now, as Henry Bennett sets the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 10.401. So Josh Chin, he might be one of the fastest drivers out on track, but at the moment he is not the fastest overall. Matt Cook, give you a quick update on him. He has cycled himself down to 12th after that first lap incident for him as they head through the hairpin for this 3rd place battle. At the moment it just looks like Jan Hoffman, he was close to the final section of corners, Neil, but not close enough to challenge, probably into the turn number 6 complex.
Yes, that's because that turn number 1 is so fast that left-hander down a couple of shifts perhaps, then back round. It is so fast. Being close to the car in front is really going to affect your aerodynamics due to that dirty air for the coming from the car in front. But yes, as you said, Hoffman in that 05 car seems to be closer to the final sector, where it is slightly slower, more technical, so the aerodynamics arguably aren't quite as important. But as they're coming round to the carousel for what is their 4th time, we're about to come across the line for 80 laps to go.
80 laps is a very long way in this event. Head across the line. Another fastest lap, Joshua Chin. These two are actually swapping fastest lap times at the moment. He's done a 1 minute 10.123. Henry Bennett, he's not done a 1 minute 10.2, but it's still not the fastest lap of the race overall. But that lead gap, that lap is coming down. It's 1.5 seconds. I must say to our producer, I can really hear him as they head down the back straight for the 5th time. As yeah, now I got you. Matt Cook, who comes out on him, he's up to 13th. He's dropped a couple of positions. He's actually getting held up big time in this mid-pack, and he's losing a lot of time. These points are going to be vital here today going forward in the championship. He's got a chance, but if Henry Bennett can get a 75-point lead or even a 100-point lead after this event, Neil, the championship for Matt Cook is over.
Yes, it is. You get 50 points for a win in this series. So with these few number of races to go, Matt Cook really needs luck on his side to have a shot at this championship. But he's currently stuck at the back of a 3-car train, David Costello and Marshall Stanley being the 2 cars ahead. And you can have a look at him ring to the carousel, looking left and right and left and right. And he really can't find a place to pass. That just goes to show, even if you have the pace, if you fall back a couple of positions, it is very, very difficult to make them back up again.
Yes, we head on to lap number 6. Another fastest lap of the race has been set. No chances of guesses to work out who it is. It's Henry Bennett. Cook, though, looking down to the inside of Marshall Stanley as they head through the hairpin. Up towards the kink. The speed trap, this is what it's called. It's one of the fastest sections of this course. Okay, it's not the 330, 340 km/h speeds that we were seeing as Marshall Stanley goes for a move on David Costello into China Beach. Costello gonna manage to hold the position. He goes off, but Marshall Stanley now has got Matt Cook trying to come around the outside. So David Costello loses 2 positions in all of that. Matt Cook, though, not able to get past Marshall Stanley. This just shows that through China Beach, you have to get the move done before you head up the hill, Neil. Otherwise, your chance is basically gone because you're out of the rhythm and you're offline.
Yes, and of course coming down into China Beach, that massive braking zone, it's very, very easy to misjudge it because you're covering your distance at a great rate of knots, and even braking half a second too late, that'll be you off into the grass on the outside. But Matt Cook inherits a position there due to the rival in front going up into 12th place now, but he still has to try and get in front of Marshall Stanley as he comes through that very quick chicane, the right, left, right, losing speed all the way through before you get to this right-handed hairpin and onto the back straight.
And that chicane is very difficult as Matt Cook hits the 7,000 RPM kill switch by the looks of it. A little bit of a moment for him. He's lost some time, not any positions. He's managed to keep it on the black stuff, but the chicane is very difficult here at Mid-Ohio because the first section is very fast. You then got that second gear right-hand hairpin, Neil, that you have to slow the car down for. And if you go and get it slowed off, there's a very unforgiving wall on the outside that will very nicely say hello to your front wing.
Yes, that wall just loves to meet cars, and it certainly will love to meet yours. Yes, very, very difficult. Again, that's the same for all of this track. It's lined by grass on both sides of the track, very, very close. So even if you get 2 wheels on it, you start to lose grip, and that could easily be you going up into a wall or going off into the kitty litter. But having a look at the lead of this race, that gap between Joshua Chin and Henry Bennett for first place is stabilising roughly at about a second and a half as Marshall Stanley has had a bit off by the looks of it just before the carousel, and that is suspension is not looking fun.
Yeah, we're now seeing a replay on your screen of this instant, and as Marshall Stanley came into the carousel, I think he was actually exiting over, it was actually a long way into the lap, very heavy contact coming out of the China Beach section through the S's in the jump. The car got very loose over the jump, and there was no way that he was going to stop that. Front left-hand side into the wall. He is back out because, of course, in the series you do get a fast repair. So you do get a second chance as Jan Hoffman now cycling back through the field as he nearly makes contact with the driver of Matt Cook. So Jan Hoffman really struggling. He was quick for the first few opening laps, Neil, but he's falling back now, down 4 positions on where he started.
Yes, falling back. Had a very, very good start, but falling back, as you said. Jan Hoffman continuing to fall down. He's now down in 10th place in that 05 car behind Klaus Peterson and trying to hold off the fast charging Matt Cook, who of course started from outside pole.
He did, and I think for Matt Cook, he's going to be frustrated at the fact that he made a silly error on the first lap, and he's losing time. We're now 9 on the 9th lap of this event. He's got 75 more to go. It's still quite a way as he looks to the inside into China Beach of Jan Hoffman. Gets loose, but he is going to... No, they're not. They're going to make contact, and Matt Cook is heavy into the right-hand wall. That is pretty much his championship hopes over there in one corner.
Yeah, championship hopes over, and he's into the barrier again on the outside of the jump. But yes, what happened appears to be that Hoffman was looking to repass, and he just simply got into the back of him, didn't he? He just hit him into the back, then hard into the concrete wall on the right-hand side. That's the suspension absolutely screwed. That front wing certainly doesn't look happy at all, and that's him back into the pits looking for the tow.
So as long as Henry Bennett can make sure that he can cross the line in the lead, he is going to extend his championship advantage. He's got 138 points to the good over Matt Cook. This is also actually going to promote Robert Grosser, if he finishes where he is at the moment, into second position, because he is only 22 points behind the driver of Matt Cook in the championship as it stands. If he can get a good finishing position, and we're showing those standings on your screen at the moment, and you can see that Henry Bennett 336 points. But for... Yes, of course, these standings are not live. These are the standings as we came out of Pocono, so they're not up to date. So at the moment, before we add the points onto the end of this race, you can see the 138-point advantage that Henry Bennett has over Matt Cook. But that is now going to get even bigger going in or coming out of Mid-Ohio and to Chicagoland in 3 weeks, Neil.
Chicagoland in 3 weeks' time. That 1.5 mile oval has always produced exciting racing in real life. No doubt it will produce exciting racing again, as the leaders of the race, Joshua Chen and Henry Bennett, are just coming up to begin the lap of the traffic.
They are, and this is where the pace is going to start diving off for all of these drivers. Could also play into Henry Bennett's hand a little bit more, because the lead is now down to a 1 second gap. It's gone down 2.5 tenths already on this lap. And for Josh Chin, he needs to make sure he can get past these cars as quickly as possible. The king of chins is a very capable driver in these IndyCars, but Mid-Ohio's already been proven so far today. It is a very tough circuit to overtake on, and if they're already catching traffic in 11 laps of racing, they are going to be having a very busy day when it comes to the traffic. They are catching the drivers of Andrew Wood and Marshall Stanley, currently running 19th and 20th as it stands. Heading through turn number 1 to start lap number 12. King of Chins is going to be held up. He's actually going to have to lift off quite a lot through the chicane. That's allowed Henry Bennett to really close up the gap. It's now 4 tenths, 3 tenths. Car off wide. That is the driver of Andrew Wood. So Andrew Wood gets out of the way for your leaders as they head onto the back straight. Of course, blue flag rules are slightly different in the Classic IndyCar Series. You have to adhere to them, get out of the way, and that actually plays into the leaders' hands a little bit more, Neil, because it means that they don't have to work as hard to get through the traffic. Neil's having a few issues by the looks of it as they head through China Beach, down underneath the Honda Bridge. This lead battle, still half a second between the two as Bennett gets loose. Bennett gets very loose coming over through turn number 9, Thunder Valley. A very difficult corner, and that actually plays back into Josh Chin's hand. This lead gap back out to 1.5 seconds. And I believe, Neil, you're back with us.
Yes, that lead gap back out to 1.5 seconds, but of course, lapping traffic is always dangerous no matter what series you're in. Never mind a racetrack like this and cars like these, which are incredibly fast, and then a very, very tight technical track.
And as we look forward into this race, the pit window now has opened. It will be open between lap 12 and lap number 36. These cars should be good for about 35, 36 laps on a tank of fuel. So we're approaching the halfway stage in this first stint. 2 stops will be enough to get them to the end, as Jan Hoffman now has had a moment. He's dropped down to 16th in the standings. As Matt Cook working his way up the inside into turn number 1 to try and make up for some damage limitation. He is a lap down now, so he's lost a lap thanks to his antics with the other driver. I believe that was as Jan Hoffman's actually had a spin out of the carousel. A little bit too much curb on the right-hand side. He's back going again. The lead is down to 1.3 seconds now, Neil. So Henry Bennett's clearly got some pace hidden. I think he's saving it for later on in the race, but he's also got to be mindful that he can't let Josh Chin get away, because if he does, that could throw away his chances of a win altogether.
Yes, that gap has been stable about 1.5 seconds since about lap 3 or so, but yes, just fluctuating a little bit due to individual differences in the lap times. But yes, as you were saying with that spin for Hoffman, it's very difficult round mid-Ohio because you've got so many slow corners round here, and these cars tend to be very, very twitchy in the low gears, so you always have to be careful. You always have to be careful of that throttle and steering control. It really is a lot of coordination needed to keep these cars on the track, and easily just lose that concentration just a little bit, and that's exactly what happened.
Concentration is something these drivers need to keep a hold of. We're only about 15 minutes into this event, 15-20 minutes to go. Another hour and 20 to go for these drivers as we head on to lap number 15 next time around. For Robert Grosser, he's still there, 3rd position. He's about 4 seconds behind the driver of Henry Bennett and has got 6 seconds to the good over Timo Sinyemi, his Logical Vortex teammate. Logical Vortex, stalwart in IndyCar racing, Neil. A team that not many others have been able to challenge. Only the likes of Aero Expansion, Power Slide Motorsports, and of course Josh Chin of Team Chimera have ever been able to take the challenge to Logical Vortex, and they're sort of dying off a little bit. A lot of the drivers leaving as Andrew Wood goes for a spin in front of Robert Grosser. Obviously Michele Constantini switching to 1050 Barb and Aero Racing for the second half of this season. As Andrew Wood, his incident that he's had, sounds as though he almost had a... Oh, he did as well. That was very close. That was Timo Sinyemi. Replay up on your screen. You see him come through the chicane. You'll be able to see Andrew Wood off into the distance as he comes round just out to the blind spot. There's a car. Timo Sinyemi did a very good job to just hit the brakes and be able to stop the car in time. He is now stuck behind the driver of Andrew Wood, so Andrew does need to get out of the way and yield position to Timo now.
Yes, does need to get out of the way, but again, this is something that you see in, again, not just this series, but many, many series. Kind of dangerous rejoins. You've always got to be careful if you're rejoining the track after a spin. And again, as you said, a very, very good job there by Timo to put on the brakes, and certainly a place where it's not conducive, and it would himself be very easy to spin that car. But yes, something that you've always got to look out for is being able to rejoin safely. Not able to do that at that point, but he's still stuck behind him a lap later.
As he now yields the position, that incident for Timo has meant that it's brought the driver of Lucas Laville back into a factor. Battle for position number 4. Ben Gregory is another 3 seconds behind these guys, so is not challenging for any positions higher. He does have 6 seconds over the driver of Randy Schumacher at the moment as the battle for position number 4 between Isinyemi and Lucas Laville heads itself through China Beach, through the S's and up towards the jump. The jump is very difficult here because the car gets light, and in these Indy cars they don't have as much downforce as the Dallara DW12 did, and they've got a little bit less than the IR18 if I remember correctly, so a very difficult car to drive, very powerful engine in this one as well, Neil. It's just all part of the challenge of the classic IndyCar series, but to see as many drivers here, and it's always the regulars turn up and always the regulars who put on a good show.
Yeah, the cars get very, very light over the crest there. which means that you have to be very tentative on the throttle because you've got less weight on the car essentially, so the horsepower to weight ratio goes all the way up, so you just need to be even more careful on that throttle as this Nyemi comes through turn 4 now, down onto the back straight with the start of this race, and he appears to put a gap there on Lucas Laville.
He has indeed. The gap is now 9/10 of a second, which means that for Timo Nyemi, it's a little bit more breathing room. It's a long way to go in this race. The battle for your race lead has closed up once again. It's now 9/10 of a second between the two. Henry Bennett running 3/10 faster last time around than Josh Chin. Chin maybe making a little bit of a mistake into the carousel this time. Wonder whether he's starting to struggle on those tyres, Neil. It's a very hot track here today. 39 degrees Celsius, 23 degrees in the air. So these guys, the tyres are going to be falling off very quickly. And once they get out after the pit stop, it's going to be nice to have a new set of boots on these IndyCars.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. Of course, perhaps Joshua Chin's setup uses the tyre slightly more than minutes in second place. But yes, as you said, we're just coming into the pit stop phase now. 35 laps is what you can do on a tank of fuel. But in order to be able to do that, you really need to nurse those tyres. And Chin might have just taken a little bit too much out of them in the beginning stint of this race.
Maybe the pace that we saw in the opening few laps was too much for the Team Chimera car, and it's allowed the championship leader to be back within touching distance. 8/10 of a second between the two. Last time around, Bennett was once again 3/10 of a second quicker. We'll have to see what the lap times compare to this time around as they head themselves up towards the carousel and through the chute for the 18th time. And turning right, very tight right-hander. You have to be very patient with the car, and then left. Once again, you can't get on the power too early because there's a very inviting gravel trap. This time around, the lap times, let's have a look and see how they compare. Josh Chin, a 10.456. He was a tenth faster than Henry Bennett, so maybe the both of them starting to struggle, but Henry Bennett having a little bit more life left in his tyres.
Yes, a tenth really is nothing at all. We can just put that down to a very, very small standard deviation. But yes, the tyre's starting to come off a little bit. We're just over halfway through the stint if you decided to go all the way through it. Lap 19 now. Expect to see these sprint runners in within the next 10 laps or so.
Indeed, so it will not be long before they bring themselves down to the pit lane. They want to run as long as they can for the first two stints to allow them to be as light as possible on the last stint. But still have take enough fuel to be able to change the tyres in the same amount of time. So they have fresh tyres and low fuel for the final run into the finish. It's only going to be about 20 laps after that second pit stop as long as they get all the way. Of course, no cautions here, just the local yellows being used at Mid-Ohio. And there's no chance of an absolutely massive pile-up that could inevitably cause one with an admin being able to administer that. As they head across, the leaders head across the line, start lap number 20 of this event now. New fastest lap for Josh Chin. 1 minute 9.8, so he's clearly seen that Henry Bennett is closing the gap and has now got the pedal to the metal.
Yes, that gap getting higher and higher, and as you said, the fastest lap of the race now down under that 1 minute 10 barrier, 1 minute 9.984. So perhaps Chin has just been managing the gap. Perhaps he's just fooled us a little bit and fooled Bennett as well a little bit, coming down towards China Beach, braking hard from 270 kilometers an hour down to 135 at the apex through the jump. And you can just hear the little bit of throttle there that he puts on at the beginning of it, takes off halfway through, then puts back on once he lands, once all the weight is back on that suspension. Then coming through the chute, this right left combination, down a gear or so through that left, now to the final section of the track, through that penultimate corner, double apex. Kind of, you can't decide to stick the right hand side of the track there across the last corner, and indeed the finish line. That last lap being a 1 minute 20.26 for Chin, and then a 1 minute 20.26 for Bennett.
We've also had an issue for Randy Crosno, one of the big drivers to come out of the Pocono 500. He was heading himself through Thunder Valley, and as the car came over the crest of the hill, it just got light on the rear end. He spat him around into a wall. Not much that he could do. There is also a battle for 9th position going on. That is between David Sestelo and Carson Brodvey. And Brodvey has managed to get himself past on this lap. this time around. So David Costello now going to drop himself down into 10th position. That final moment as we see the Krosno incident, you'll be able to see on your screen as he heads over the crest at Thunder Valley. You'll just see the rear end just get very loose, and that just shows that these cars are running, okay, they're probably running full downforce here at Mid-Ohio, Neil, but sometimes it just isn't enough.
Yeah, sometimes it just isn't enough, especially when you have these many undulations on track, and of course these slow technical corners, and you need a bit more than full downforce. You need a little bit of that right foot control as well, and it's very easy just to get it wrong. As that previous lap, Bennett's taken a nice chunk of time out of the leader. I make that about 4/10 actually.
Almost 4/10 of a second that he was able to take out of Josh Chin last time around. That means the lead gap is now down to 6/10 of a second. We do know that Josh Chin has got slightly faster pace over one lap, but it's keeping that pace up, which is the next hardest thing to do in motor racing as they head themselves into China Beach for the 22nd time. Bennett, you can see, is closing 4/10. Yes, it is getting much closer as they head themselves over the crest of the hill, down through the right-hander of the S's, and through over the jump. You'll be able to see the jump. It's very similar. And part of the challenge here at Mid-Ohio is getting the car set up to be able to deal with the elevation changes, because it will unsettle the car, and the car is getting unsettled quite a few times over the course of one lap.
Yeah, getting that suspension right is absolutely key. You've got to play with those dampers. You've got to play with those springs in order to be able to get that suspension right. But yes, a very undulating track. You take off at least a couple of times through the lap, and certainly with a very light car, a couple of more times. That gap continuing to come down to 6/10 of a second now, as they're trying to as they're about to negotiate traffic ahead of them. And it's the 996 car of Vesa Olila.
Vesa Olila is currently running down in 17th position, but he is going to yield to the right-hand side as the leaders head into China Beach. Good, sensible driving by Vesa. So he will now head himself through the same section of corners. His closest rival is the driver of Michael Gerlicher. Gerlicher looks as though he is a little bit further up the road from the... Oh, sorry, no, it's the driver of Andrew Aitken who's 10 seconds up the road. So, for the driver of SU, Ollia hasn't got much to worry about so far. Jan Hoffman now brings himself down onto the pit lane. This is for a scheduled stop.
Yes, the first of the drivers really to blink. He did start in 6th place, currently down in 13th, so perhaps just trying to get the undercut to gain a couple of those places back. But yes, Chin and Bennett, the two leaders, deciding to not come in this time round. Lap 24 they're on now. Yes, we now have 60 laps to go in the race, 61 laps to go, I should say. As they come around that very difficult right-handed hairpin. You're descending all the way through it as well, and you've got that dangerous curb on the outside. You get two wheels up on that, it is very easy to spin the car off to the right-hand side, making hard for China Beach, and Chin gained 2/10 that previous lap.
2/10 is going to play into his hands very well. The longer he can keep Henry Bennett behind, the better. This also plays well into Matt Cook's chance because, okay, as it stands at the moment, he is going to fall out of the contention for the championship lead. Henry Bennett can win this race. It will actually mean that he could be coming out of Mid-Ohio with 3 races to go as the 2018 Classic IndyCar champion. He will be the first driver in the history of this season to be able to say that he has beaten Robert Grosser to the championship win, and for every driver that must be the aim, as Mike Gerlich has just had an incident coming off of the final corner, came through the left-hander, lost the rear end and the concrete wall on the inside. He said hello to that one very nicely there, Neil.
Yes, saying hello to that barrier coming off the final corner, just lost the rear end, then hit the barrier on the left-hand side. Just a very small moment, but because of how close that pit wall is to the apex of that final corner, you don't really need that much of an instant to make a big problem, and that's exactly what happened to Gerlich there. Coming across the line that time around, the two leaders essentially identical lap times that time round. Let's have a look. Chin with a 1:10.241, Bennett a 1:10.244, but I think he's much visibly closer coming down to China Beach this time round?
We will have to wait and see as they head themselves through into the carousel for the 25th time. What will the lap times be this time around? The lead gap is half a second. It was 8/10 as they came across the line last time around. So Henry Bennett has definitely gone quicker this time by a 1 minute 10.622 for Joshua Chin, a 1 minute 10.427 for Henry Bennett. He is consistent with his times. Josh Chin is fluctuating by a few tenths, and that's what's losing him the opportunity. Now that Henry Bennett's in draft range, this plays into his hands very well as they head out of the hairpin and on towards the speed trap and China Beach. He's not going to be close enough this time. We are going to send you on board for a lap with Henry Bennett so you can see how tough it is here at Mid-Ohio with some RaceSpotTV fan immersion. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course for the Classic IndyCar Series on the iRacing Esports Network, brought to you by RaceSpotTV. Jack Stiles alongside Neil Heatley with Randy Chenworth behind the cameras for you today. So far, Neil, pretty calm race. We've seen a few spins from people just finding the challenges here at Mid-Ohio, but all in all, not too much contact between most of these drivers.
Yes, not too much contact, and as you said, it's all about that throttle control, and that's what we've seen. The majority of the spins and little incidents that we have seen has been caused by it's that right foot control. You certainly can't have one made of lead as you go around this Mid-Ohio sports car course, I should say, rather. But again, Chin and Bennett deciding not to come in. Lap 29 they're beginning now. As you said towards the in the earlier part of this broadcast, a stint you can expect 34 or 35 laps. Lap 29, so it's at least, so at maximum it's going to be 5 laps till they come in.
Yes, the pit stop window will be opening very soon indeed. Of course, this is round number 12 of the championship. Just 3 more after this one. In 3 weeks' time, we'll be heading ourselves to Chicagoland for a 300-mile blast around the oval. There's Henry Bennett looking like he wants to challenge Josh Chin. Gap now down to 0.2 of a second as Ben Gregory, the first of your top 10 to cough. He's going to bring himself down to the pit lane after 28 laps of racing to get himself the service, get himself back out. Make sure he's got enough fuel and enough of the tyres left to get to the end. But back to your lead battle. Josh Chin has had a very good middle sector. Henry Bennett hasn't, because the lead gap now has extended itself by half a second. And Henry Bennett has to make up all that time again. And this is just going to be a reoccurring theme today, I feel.
Yes, it certainly is, because middle high of sports car course, so difficult to pass on, especially with that chicane. And we've seen that gap fluctuate up and down a little bit. It did be stable about 1.5 seconds in the first half of the stint, and it's came down to about a second as Chin has gone very, very wide through the hairpin there.
That invited Henry Bennett to look down the inside, but Josh Chin got a much better run off of the hairpin. Has he got the momentum to hold off Bennett into China Beach? I'm not sure. Bennett looks to the inside and he's going to get it done on the brakes. Josh Chin has nothing to answer, so Henry Bennett, your new race leader, Josh Chin, going to fight back as they head over the crest of the hill, but not going to be able to get the move done. So Henry Bennett now looking a little bit more comfortable in the lead. He's now got to use that pace that he's had for the last 15 laps or so to try and get a bit more of a gap over the 93. If not, I can see Chin sticking his nose up the inside.
I bet, because he's just passed what I imagine that Chin will decide to come in this time round to stop losing any time behind Bennett. Is he? No, he hasn't. That's very interesting. I would have thought he came in, but no. But Bennett takes the lead for the first time this race and leads the first lead, which means Chin does not lead all of the laps so far this race. It did take till lap 30, but there we go. Chin led 29, and add Bennett to that leaders chart, and you can see Chin just falling away now.
I don't think Chin has got the pace to keep up with the driver of Henry Bennett, because the leader's now half a second as Carsten Brodby gets himself past the driver of Klaus Peterson. And it sounds as though actually Josh Chin is trying to fuel save just a little bit. Last time around, he was 1.2 seconds slower than Henry Bennett. Obviously because of the mistake through the hairpin, but also I think he's trying to save a little bit of fuel. Is he trying to go one lap longer on the stint to try and get himself a little bit of a leapfrog in the pit lane? We'll have to wait and see as they head themselves up towards the carousel once again. It won't be too long before we see these guys down onto the pit lane. Ben Gregory, quick update on him, 10.2 second stop, nice and routine. He's back out and running down in 10th position. Of course, he's going to make up a fair chunk of time once everyone else brings himself down onto the pit lane. The lead, though, down to 4/10 all of a sudden because Bennett had an awful last sector.
Yeah, an awful last sector there from Bennett in the 007 car. But yes, coming through the chicane. 32nd lap they're on now. I'm not sure how much longer they can stretch these tanks, because of course they had the pace lap and the bit at the beginning of this race. How much fuel do they have left in these Dallara IndyCars, braking hard for China Beach? And just holding that gap behind at about 7-8 tenths of a second or so as they come across the jump and braking hard for that right-hander at the bottom of the hill.
As Josh Chin almost loses it altogether. His heart must have been in his mouth for a fraction of a second as he headed over the crest of the hill after China Beach. Through Thunder Valley he goes. He's still there, half a second. Expect these drivers to be down on the pit lane in the next 2 laps, because as you said, a slightly longer pace lap means that you're going to be using a little bit more fuel on that first stint. It might be the difference between going 34 and 35 laps on this first stint as they had themselves out of the final corner across the line. This time around, lap times compare. Josh Chin was faster, but only by 14 thousandths of a second there, Neil. So they're very matched at the moment on pace.
Yeah, very, very matched. Exactly what we saw earlier on in this stint. Lap 33 now. They've certainly got to come in the next couple of laps as Chin loses it.
Josh Chin, as he heads out to the hairpin, he loses it altogether. He almost did out of China Beach, and it's a very similar thing that he's done. Too much power, and the grip just wasn't there. He's back going again, but he's cycling himself behind Robert Grosser. This now invites Robert Grosser up to second in the championship. So you're 1-2 in the championship. If it finishes this way, which I promise you it won't, because we've still got 51 laps remaining in this event, they're currently 1-2 in this race. And as the drivers head themselves, or the leader, Henry Bennett, heads himself through the final section of corners, he's going to be coming on to lap number 34. That car must be running almost fumes by now. So he heads himself through 10-1. Fastest lap of the race that time by was Josh Chin obviously spins himself out last time by. He's going to do a very slow one. But for Henry Bennett, a 1 minute 9.917, because he hasn't got the pressure behind. He can put his eyes forwards and concentrate on getting a little bit more of the gap. Has Josh Chin just lost his opportunity at a race win of going all the way towards the end? Has he just lost an opportunity for a race win in the Classic IndyCar Series? We'll have to obviously wait and see. But this won't be too long. A little bit further back, we do have a battle between the drivers of Jan Hoffman and Andrew Adair Saunders as they head into China Beach. Hoffman goes to the inside. Adair Saunders going to try and get the outside. They're both looking a little bit nervous. But Andrew Adair Saunders, nice and clean pass for Jan Hoffman. Saunders drops down. Carson Brodby now down on to pit lane for the first time. He's going to make his first stop. New tyres. Car comes down. The fuel hose will be out in any second now. 11.4 second stop, and he is away for the number 35. He's going to cycle out around, I'd say, 12th, 13th position. Henry Bennett going for a 35th lap on this stint. Josh Chin, Robert Grosser, those two are deciding not to pin. Josh Chin all of a sudden now within a second of Robert. It looks as though everyone going for the 35 lap first stint. So we head through turn number 1 once again. Much else going on. The battle obviously for position number 13 between Hoffman and Adair Saunders already stretched itself out to a gap of over a second. So Hoffman is clear at the front. We do have a battle for second position going on between Robert Grosser and Josh Chin. Josh obviously making that small mistake. As Jan Hoffman now has had an issue. So Adair Saunders gets himself back up into 13th position. And there is a battle between Johnny Brett and Franz Josef Sturm for position number 10 out on circuit. Currently split by a gap of 1.1 seconds as Johnny Garrett and Josef Sturm both decide to pit on the 34th lap. So they're going to go for a 34 lap first stint as Henry Bennett this time around. So your leader comes into the pits. Robert Grosser follows. Josh Chin goes for a 36 lap stint. This is a risk that he is obviously worth or prepared to take. So for Henry Bennett, let's see what he can do. Brings himself to a halt. Third pit stall from the end. As he comes to a complete halt. Car goes up on the jacks. Robert Grosser pulling in just behind him. He's got to pull forward just a little bit more. Henry Bennett back out and away. So he's going to cycle out in the race lead once Josh Chin brings himself on to the pit lane. There is traffic though. There's a car off to the right hand side. That's Andrew Aitken running down in 15th position at the moment. So Henry Bennett, your leader, has got his work cut out. Robert Grosser back down the way, 9.5 second stop. Timo Isinyemi, fastest stop so far of the race, a 9.3. Lucas Afil, 11.4. Randy Shoemake going for a 35 lap stint. And for Josh Chin, I expect to see him down onto the pit lane any moment now as he heads over the jump through Thunder Valley. We will just have to wait and see what happens. Klaus Peterson, David Costello also going to bring themselves down onto the lane. Just Andrew Adair Saunders, Randy Shoemake, Josh Chin and Andrew Aitken left to pit. Josh Chin goes for one more. He's going to go for 37 laps. There's clearly an estimate on the fuel that Josh Chin knows something a little bit different about. I know he said he was fuel saving. Didn't think he'd save that much. He can, if he can go 5 more laps, he can go 1 more stop to the end. Although I wouldn't say he's saving fuel at the moment. It's just on a 1 minute 9.867. That's the fastest lap of the race so far. So for Josh Chin, has he managed to pull this off for a 1-stop race? It would be incredible if he has. Obviously 84 laps, you need to get to lap 42 to pit. And if he can get to about lap 40, I would say that he'd be able to save the extra 2 laps to be able to get to the end. Of course, he's still got 3 more to do after this one. As Neil, you just missed out on some great action with the strategy. Josh Chin could go 1 stop instead of 2 if he can pit at any point after the next 3 laps.
Yes, as always, you can have a little bit of a mechanical failure here in the iRacing simulation, a little bit of a mechanical failure on my part as well. But yes, that very, very interesting strategy that could well play out. A 1-stop, a very, very brave move. But the question is it worth it? Will you really save that much time by not coming into the pit lane for a second time?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. And it will all become apparent soon. He has got an 18-second advantage over Henry Bennett. So I'm just trying to add it all up in my head. It's going to be about 28 seconds on the pit lane for Josh. So he's going to drop 10 seconds behind. He's going to cycle himself back behind Robert Grosser. So he's lost about 2 seconds to Robert Grosser in third. But then as long as he can keep the pace up, he should be okay. So for Josh Chin, this is a risk, but it's one worth taking. As Rennie Shoemake now going to bring himself down onto the lane. So he's going to be the next visitor to his pit stall. Just one more driver left to pit, and that is Josh Chin. If he can do... Oh, he almost lost it. He's getting very close to the edge. He's clearly not fuel saving now. He's clearly pushing it to the very limits, Neil. Trying to not lose as much time as possible because he knows the less time that he loses, the less that the less that he's got to gain back.
Yes. He's gone 4 laps longer than anyone. Definitely fuel saving there. But I definitely think had he not had that spin, lap 33 or so, he would have gone for the conventional 2-stop that most other people seem to have gone for at the moment. But yes, perhaps that little spin, he's decided just to have a change of strategy on the spur of the moment.
And I think that's why Henry Bennett was so easy getting past Josh Chin into China Beach, was because Josh Chin just decided to lift himself off of the power and not have too much of an issue. Let Henry Bennett through, not fight him, try and save some fuel. He is almost certainly lifting and coasting into China Beach. You can hear it in his engine note. Battle for 14th position between Andrew Adair Saunders and Marshall Stanley. Looks as though that's currently going on. As they head into turn number 1, Stanley in the red car behind the red number 25 machine. Andrew Adair Saunders ahead in the number 4. Saunders a mid-pack, usually a mid-pack driver in this series, so nothing really changing there for him this race. Got a lap down. Josh Chin has managed to lap all of the field but 7th position. As he heads himself through the carousel, he's going again. He's going on to lap number 40. This is almost certainly a one-stop strategy from Chin now.
Yes, certainly a one-stop strategy. A little bit of inspired strategy there, going for the alternate, if you like. Certainly something that not many other people would have dared. And the fact that he's gone for this one-stop, and he showed so much pace at the beginning of this race, it's quite unbelievable, isn't it?
It is indeed, and he seriously has the pace, and it makes you wonder that when he was doing the fastest laps of this race, was he doing it while saving fuel? And then I have to beg the question of what else has Josh Chin got tucked away somewhere in that car pace-wise? Can he go half a second faster than Henry Bennett if he needs to? We know that Henry Bennett is quick. They've both got best lap times within not even a tenth of a second of each other. It's 500ths of a second those guys have got their fastest laps. That's actually what separates the two, so they're very equal on fastest lap pace, but that's making me think, does Josh Chin have a little bit more tucked away somewhere?
Yeah, just a little bit of pace tucked away, because of course if he's been fuel saving for the for the first part of this race, no doubt he could have gone a nice bit quicker if he was not. So there's certainly much more pace in that car than I think Chin is showing.
And Chin clearly maybe hiding a few things away. Could also be taking the strategy of going as long as possible on the first stint, because then he knows that actually all I need to do then to get to the end is a 2-second dash, slash and dash, but you're still going to lose 15-20 seconds going through the pit lane. So I don't think it's worth the risk, Neil. I think for him it's got to be a one-stop all the way, and if you can't make it work, then he has lost out on a lot of vital points.
Yeah, lost out on a lot of vital points. Of course, that's what makes prizes here in the Logical Classic IndyCar series. But as you said, Chin looking for that strategy. Currently 19 seconds, roughly 19 seconds ahead of Bennett at the moment. Coming up to lap 41 now. When's he going to come in?
We will have to wait and see. It's this lap, so he's in at the stage where there's 43 laps remaining in this race. So if he's done 41, is he going to be able to make it 43 to the end? It's going to be very interesting to watch. So over the next 30 odd laps, Henry Bennett now getting a little bit held up behind some of your traffic. So he's going to cycle himself back through into the lead as he crosses the line this time. And goes past Josh Chin, who's still stopped. Car up on the jack, so clearly a new set of tyres going on this one. Another challenge for Josh Chin is that if he is going to the end, he's got to do 43 laps on the same set of tyres in hot conditions. That could really, really hinder him.
He could well now, and I would say I would hope he put on a new set of tyres after doing 41 laps on them. But yes, coming through the chicane now, the question is, where has he cycled out? It looks like Robert Grossa is the car ahead of him in terms of position, not the car ahead of him on track. So he cycled back out in third place by the looks of it.
So he's still on the podium. He's still within a shot of being able to take home some good points, but not at the moment in a good place to be able to take home the points for taking himself onto victory lane. At the moment that one lies with Henry Bennett, but of course it's not all over till the fat lady sings, and with 42 laps left to go in this event, we're going to be approaching the halfway stage as Henry Bennett crosses the line this time. He's going to head himself through the carousel, currently with a 7-second advantage over the German of Robert Grosser. And we are halfway into this 200-mile race, so 100 miles down, 100 miles to go. Not as far as the 500 that we completed 2 weeks ago at Pocono in the time of 3¼ hours. We're expecting this one to be an hour and 3/4. We do have a 2-hour time limit. Of course, do not forget, coming your way immediately after this race on the iRacing Esports Network will be round 4 of the McLaren Shadow competition. That is coming your way from Spa-Francorchamps. Myself and Randy will be bringing you all the action for that one. He's heading himself through the chicane this time. Josh Chin will have to wait and see a couple of laps to see if he can start closing down that gap on Robert Grosser, because if he can get himself ahead of Robert Grosser and he doesn't have to make another pit stop, Neil, that plays into his hands absolutely perfectly, because it means that at the least he's got a second place.
Yes, and he's currently about 13 seconds behind or so Henry Bennett in that 007 car, but didn't you say earlier that it's about 20 seconds lost on pit road? So currently when to make their pit stops, he'd currently be 10 seconds ahead out of the two of them, but of course Grossa and Bennett with much lighter cars and much fresher tyres.
When we're looking at the pit stops, a full stint pit stop for fuel and tyres, you're looking at about 28 to 30 seconds you lose on the lane, with some losing a little bit more. If you're doing a splash and dash, it's only going to be a couple of seconds of fuel, probably not even that, so you're going to be losing 20 seconds, I'd say, maximum on the pit lane. And that yeah, so it's just been notified to me, Josh looks like he is saving fuel. 1 minute 10.3 slower than the two drivers ahead of him. Henry Bennett with a 1 minute 2 flat, and Grosser with a 2.31. So for Josh Chin, he's got to watch out for Timo Sinyomi behind, because he's setting 10.8. So Josh Chin saves a little bit too much. He could start losing time. He has got a 13-second advantage over Timo, but the Finn, he's obviously a Finnish driver, and all Finnish drivers we know are absolute gods when it comes to race cars.
Yes, all Finnish drivers just seem to keep cool in the heat of the moment. But there you go. No doubt Timo Sinyomi will be right there to gain any position should anything happen to Bennett, Grosser or Chin.
And currently looking at the battle for position number 9, Klaus Peterson and Jan Hoffman going at it as they head through the chicane. Current gap around 1.5 seconds. The last time around, Hoffman was 0.2 quicker than Peterson, so that one could close itself up in the next few laps. We've got to watch that one, but Hoffman is 21 laps into his stint, so he is a long way down into his stint. And actually, the tyres are going to be getting pretty worse for wear. And probably nothing compared to Klaus Peterson's 9-lap-old tyres. So Peterson does have the tyre life to play into his advantage.
Yes, does have that tyre life, and again we're going to be expecting this sort of situation at the end of the race where Chin has very old tyres, but Grosser and Bennett have pretty much thicker ones. But yes, as you were saying, for that splash and dash, you said you only lost about 20 seconds. I'd be very surprised if Bennett and Grosser did that, because of course I'd expect them to probably take tyres on that last stop as well, but of course we have yet to see as Bennett comes through the carousel for the 45th time this race on through that final corner and across the start-finish line. That last lap from Bennett, a 1 minute 10.2. You have to see how that measures up to Grosser and Chin.
Well, Grosser has come across the line at 10.4 for him. Josh Chin, he's going to do a 9.9. So fuel saving is clearly something that the Team Chimera driver isn't really thinking about too much at the moment, which is worrying me, because I know that if he can play this off and only not have to make another pit stop to get to the end of this race, Neil, He's got it in the bag, but I wonder whether he's able to take a little bit more corner speed and is using the lift and coast to his advantage.
Now have just gone incredibly long that first stint, so he's 2 much shorter second stints, perhaps not changing tyres during a second stop and just putting fuel in. Of course, that would save time as well. I'm wondering if that's what Chin's strategy is. It's very, very interesting. We just have to wait. We'll see what it'll be in the next 20 laps or so, but I'm just wondering now if Chin went incredibly long in that first stint, so he didn't have to change tyres. Second, can put in 2/3 tanks.
Yeah, I would say, because the tyre change is only about 5-6 seconds on these cars, if I remember correctly. So you will be able to change tyres in the time that's going to take to get you the fuel to get to the end of this event. We're going to be looking at pitting with about 15-16 laps to go. Battle for position number 9 between Peterson and Hoffman is back to within a second. So Peterson's just navigating himself around some traffic. That is the number 25 of Marshall Stanley. For Jan Hoffman, he's really got the pedal down. They matched lap times last time around. Both did a 1 minute 11.1. Jan Hoffman, as long as he can get himself past Marshall Stanley, he's then in a good position, as long as he can keep himself in draft range to try and challenge Peterson for 9th position.
Yeah, trying to challenge for that 9th position, but it appears that Hoffman has fallen quite a bit back through that middle sector there through China Beach and the few corners after coming up towards the carousel down. It appears that Peterson has the edge in the technical section, but in the faster parts Hoffman has the edge.
That maybe tells me that Hoffman's running a slightly lower setting on the wing, meaning that he can get a little bit more straight line speed out of his 05 machine. That Bumblebee looking car, he's lost him around Josh Chin, faster than the 2 drivers ahead of him, so I'm not sure whether he's pushing or managed to fuel save really well. Actually, as I say that, Robert Grosser does a 1 minute 9.997, so he does his fastest lap of the race. Chin does a 10.2, so for Josh Chin, he's still there with the pace, Neil, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether he's fuel saving enough to be able to get away with doing the next 37 laps on the same tank of fuel.
Yeah, very, very interesting what is going in the mind of that racer. None of us know, only he does. We're going to see how the strategy played after the race. They're on the lap 48 now. But yes, Peterson and Hoffman still have that battle. It was about 0.6 of a second when they crossed the line last time round. And you can see that Hoffman much, much closer this time round.
And Hoffman still trying. He's got to get closer as Peterson runs a little bit wide as they head up into the carousel. Hoffman gets a little bit of an opportunity but doesn't excel off of it. Through the final corner, across the line they go now. Past the starting gantry to start lap number 48 of their race into turn number 1 underneath the bridge. A little bit too much curve for Peterson, might unsettle the car for the 96 as they head into the chicane. Right, a little bit dab of the brakes, left again, and then more brakes into the right. Get yourself under 100 kilometers an hour, nice and slow with these cars. Not used to going this slow. Very careful on the power as you head out of the hairpin. Is he going to be able to challenge as they head through the speed trap and up into China Beach? He's 3/10 behind, but I'm not sure whether that's close enough. We'll have to wait and see. Can he get late on the brakes? No, Peterson's actually slightly later than Hoffman. Although Peterson will run a slightly wider line. That means Hoffman can really close the gap back up to under 0.2 of a second now. Heading themselves down through the S's and towards the jump. I think Hoffman maybe just cannot find the opportunity to get past Neil as he heads onto the grass on the right-hand side.
There was a very, very aggressive line through that corner there by Hoffman. Not one that I'd recommend taking. But yes, you now have Peterson and Hoffman, and then the race leader, Henry Bennett, right beside them, and Hoffman goes very wide through the carousel to let the leader through.
So Henry Bennett has navigated one. He's just got to get himself past Klaus Peterson to get past the other. Josh Chin, wow, they clearly cannot be. He cannot be fuel saving. He must be doing quali laps now. Neil, he's. And it looks as though Josh Chin has set the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 9.8686. But we've had a car in the air. Andrew Wood? 25, that's Marshall Stanley. Looking like he's trying to turn his IR05 into the aeroplane spec that was never made. A little bit too much curb and went for a little bit of a bounce on the outside by the looks of it. Very lucky to keep himself on the track with very minimal damage to that car. As I say that, he's off at China Beach. that looks like his day might just be over. Or was that a separate incident? We'll have to go and have a look. It was indeed. So 2 incidents by the looks of it on the same lap into China Beach this time, Neil. Turned him. Yeah, the grip wasn't there to get him through the corner.
The grip just not there, but of course these cars very, very fragile, and after taking a big vertical bump like that, suspension might be slightly off, the engine may well be slightly damaged. But in that battle for 9th place between Peterson and Hoffman, I could see what Hoffman was doing. He's trying to ride the coattails of the race leader past Peterson at the same time as Bennett going through, but that's not happening as Peterson goes off at the chicane, and that allows Hoffman through.
Peterson is indeed off. He's had a bit of a mistake. Just a single car incident, that one, coming through the chicane. Looks as though he turned into the left-hander. First half was fine. Just didn't scrub enough speed off for the second half. Very close to making contact with Jan Hoffman, but Hoffman is through and already away, so your position for 9th place has switched, meaning that Jan Hoffman is back ahead. He's got 5 seconds ahead to the driver of Carsten Brodby now in the number 35 machine here, Neil. And that is a gap that I think he will want to try and close in the remaining 34 laps of this event.
Yes, you want to close that up, of course, as you said, 34 laps remaining here at Mid-Ohio, and Joshua Chin's last lap was a 1 minute 9.696. He certainly isn't slowing down, which makes me think he might be going for the 2 short stints towards the end of this race.
And Marshall Stanley wasn't able to get going again, so he's taken the tow back to the pit lane. Battle for position number 15 on track between Andrew Aitken and Andrew Wood. This is within a second, sorry. In the battle for obviously P number 15. Some drivers, Andrew Wood actually a driver who usually runs up towards the rear of the top 10. Having a little bit more of a tough day here at Mid-Ohio, but Mid-Ohio really does suit a certain type of driving style, and that's why we're seeing some of the big runners, especially Randy Crosno at the start. He's been on the pit lane now for 38 minutes as Andrew Aitken goes round. Andrew Wood has nowhere to go other than into the side pod, the number 27, so the two make contact. They're going to have heavy damage to those 2 cars. Andrew Aitken looking like he's got a nice big dent in his right-hand side pod and hasn't been able to get going again. He's still stuck at Thunder Valley, and Andrew Wood is into the pit lane. He can get to the end here on the tank of fuel, so he's going to take the fast repair, get back out onto the circuit. But for Andrew Aitken, he's taking the tow back to the pit lane.
Yes, Aitken in that 27 car just spun around, and Wood had absolutely nowhere to go. Very, very unfortunate there for Wood.
And that's looks as though it's race over for the 2. They were already 2 laps down on your leader. Wood is back out, but he has no challenge really, apart from Mike Gerlicher, who's a little bit further ahead. In fact, I think he's about 1 minute and 16 seconds behind, so he hasn't really got the opportunity to close the gap. So Andrew Wood, now it's a case of getting yourself to the end. Currently, the driver lined up to take the prize for the least amount of incident points in this event is the driver. Well, there's quite a few drivers actually on 0 incident points, so the incident points obviously you can collect by running off wide, you can collect them by running or touching other cars, spinning. At the moment the drivers with 0 incident points: Lucas DeVille, Randy Shoemake, Andrew Adair Saunders, the driver of Timo Sinyemi as well, and I think that is about it. Henry Bennett has 0 incident points, he's in the lead, so all these drivers still within contention to win the JRT Pro Key as the prize for being the cleanest driver.
Yes, that prize for being the cleanest driver is very, very nice accolades just to have on your shirt there. But having a look, Joshua Chin is taking lumps of time out of both Bennett and Drosa. Of course, that gap was about 13 seconds or so when he came out of the pits on lap 41. It's now down to 9.5 as he crossed the line last time round. His last lap, a 1 minute 10.23. Compare that to Gross's 1 minute 10.1, and then the race leaders 1 minute 10.7. But you've got to remember, Bennett had a little bit of traffic that previous time round. But yes, Chin just closing and closing and closing on the top 2.
I have a feeling that for Chin, he maybe has realised that his strategy wasn't going to work. He now needs to use every drop of fuel in the car to get him to the end. There's a car span ahead of him. That's the driver of Klaus Peterson. He's gone around as they head out of through the S's this time. For Robert Gross, though, he's got to start with checking his mirrors, because 3 seconds behind is the Chimera driver of Josh Chin. heading himself up towards the carousel for the 54th time in this event now. Through the chute, that section of the course is called. Through the carousel, through the left-hander onto the main straight for Henry Bennett now. 8.5 seconds separates him from Josh Chin. This is almost certainly a race. It's the fastest lap of the race. 1 minute 9.627 goes to that very driver. He is on a charge now, Neil.
Yes, certainly on a charge. Going now is Joshua Chin in that number 93 car. That gap now down to 8.6 seconds to the lead and 2.5 to Robert Grosser.
We'll have to wait and see how that lead fluctuates throughout the rest of this race, because it's certainly not going to be the same in a couple of in 20 laps time. 29 laps remain in this event after this one. So as we head towards the three-quarter stage mark in this one, Neil, who would you say is your best bet for taking themselves onto victory lane here at Mid-Ohio?
It is very, very difficult to actually determine which one of the top three it could be. I think your best chances are either going to be Bennett or Chin. I don't think Grosser has the pace at the moment, although he's keeping in contact with that 007 car. I don't think he's actually got the pace to catch him. So I think it's going to be a showdown between Bennett and Chin as we come towards the end of this race. Joshua Chin, I believe, has gone even faster that time around, 1 minute 9.571.
He is almost certainly on a charge. He was nearly a second quicker than Robert Grosser last time around. The gap now 1.5 seconds. If you ride on board with Josh Chin, you can actually see the next car ahead is the Logical Vortex sim racing car of Robert Grosser, the reigning Classic IndyCar Series champion, Mr. 3-time as he is in this series. He will not be holding on to second position for much longer in this race, I feel. And for Henry Bennett, he's got to be starting to look at the timing screens, and the team's got to be turning around and saying, mate, you need to start getting a little bit scared of this one, because he is very quick. He was fastest in practice, fastest in quali. Can he take home the triple and be fastest in the race and take himself onto victory lane? He'll have to stick with us and wait and see. Battle for 7th position between Randy Shoemaker and Carson Brodby, currently split by around a second. Last time around, Brodby was 0.2 quicker, and 3/4 of a second between the two, as Shoemaker takes a slightly different line through the carousel this time. Manages to get a little bit more of a gap as Josh Chin manages to get himself past Robert Grosser. Grosser's into the pit, so Grosser making his last stop of the race, going for a short middle stint there, Neil.
Yes, 56, which means he's going to have, what, about 28 laps for his final stint. Of course, that is about 80% of a full stint. So that's what Robert Grosser has decided to do on the final stint of this race, and he's going to come out. In fact, Motus Niemi has got ahead of him in the pits there, but of course Timo yet has to make his second stop. The question is, will Bennett come in? Has he decided to go for that short middle stint as well, or will he make the final one the shortest? His last lap, a 1 minute 9.947. Compare that to Joshua Chin's 1 minute 9.733.
We'll have to wait and see. Currently 8 seconds split the drivers of Henry Bennett and Joshua Chin. It's not even that, 7.5 now. Last time around, Josh Chin was 0.2 quicker than Henry Bennett, so Bennett still got a little bit pace. 1 minute 10 flat for himself last time around. Josh Chin, as he comes over the line, will be able to show you what he's got, a 1 minute 10.1. So Henry Bennett was able to go faster that time by, but traffic, of course, still playing into this race. Not much else going else on circuit. The battle for position number 7 between Shoemaker and Brodby. Will keep you updated on that one if anything happens. But as it stands at the moment, not much is going on. It's sort of a little bit more of a possession. And actually, just behind those guys is the driver, Josh Chin. So we've got the battle for 7th position and your battle for the race lead involving the second place car, all in one camera shot there.
Yes, all in one camera shot as the race leader Henry Bennett just comes through the technical section on the back side of the course. When is he going to come in for his second stop? At this point, I do think Chin is going to make his second stop. It may well just be for fuel, or maybe for fuel and tyres as well, as Henry Bennett comes through the carousel to finish what will be his 58th lap. Chin just about 7 seconds behind coming through the carousel now, and across the final corner. We've got to see what the comparison on lap times that time round is. Henry Bennett, 1 minute 9.621. Incredibly fast for him. Meanwhile, Joshua Chin gets 1 minute 9.948. So about 4 tenths faster that time round, Bennett.
We are going to go on board with a lap of Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Sorry, with the driver of Josh Chin. Yep. Words, I'm getting them out. As he heads himself through the speed trap down towards China Beach for some RaceSpotTV fan immersion. We'll be back in a few moments' time. Josh Chin is in the wall. He's had an incident. That's going to almost certainly put him out the running for this race. He was setting fastest lap times. He's down to 1 minute 9.5. And as he came over the jump, replay up on your screen, you can see it was a very similar incident to what we saw earlier on in the race with one of the other drivers. I believe it was Marshall Stanley. The rear end just stepped away there, Neil, and, well, there's not much more that he can do other than he's a passenger into that tyre wall. Almost a very similar hit. He is back going again, but he is crawling himself back to the pit lane now. Robert Grosser, this is just once again invited him back into second position.
Yes, crawling back to the pit lane. He's just got in there, but that suspension looks very, very unhappy. But yes, with the sort of times that he was setting, it's almost like he was setting qualifying laps. He was going so fast, and eventually it just had to break, and that's exactly what happened to Joshua Chin. Very, very unfortunate there in the 93 car, and I think he's taken that fast repair. Indeed he has. He's gone up on the track to take tyres and fuel to the end of the race, but the question is, where has he came back out? He's came back out ahead of Timo Isinyemi, but behind Lucas Lavelle, which means that he's eventually going to come back out in third place. But the race leader, Henry Bennett, in that 007 car has came in for his final stop.
So Henry Bennett, as he came into the pits, was about a minute ahead of Josh Chin, which means that Josh's hopes of winning this race are all but over. The same with getting second. He still has the opportunity of podium, though, because the driver ahead of him, Lucas Laville, in the number 2, still hasn't pitted for the second time yet, and he is going to have to. Henry Bennett is back out and away after his pit stop, 9.2 seconds, and he's still got a healthy advantage over Robert Grosser, that of 40 seconds to the good. For Josh Chin now, this is a case of damage limitation. Can he get himself back onto the podium? But just 3 seconds behind his teammate Yami, he could put a stop to that very quickly. He can close the gap and start battling with the Chimera driver.
Yes, can start battling with that Chimera driver. But as you said, that 47 gap was when Bennett hadn't actually completed his pit stop yet, so we can now see. But the actual gap will be next time he comes across the line. But yes, Chin has a 14-second, 15-second deficit to Lucas Leveille in that number 2 car. Just going to see if he can close that up. Of course, Leveille still has to make his final stop. His gap to Robert Grosser, 20 seconds. Now, 21 laps to go. Can he make that gap up?
That is a second a lap. And looking at the lap times between the two, they haven't been that far apart from each other all race. It's been a few tenths, not a couple of seconds as Adair Saunders is now onto the pit lane to make his stop. Klaus Peterson doing the same. And I wonder whether people are getting to about 27 laps into the stint, 28 laps into the stint and thinking, well, if I pit now, I'll have reasonably okay tyres throughout the second half of the latter part of the last stint. Maybe thinking that they don't want to risk it. There's a car off through the final corner, almost collecting the third place driver. That car is Andrew Wood. He looks as though he's actually stuck on the curb on the outside. That's in a very dangerous position. He's going to have to take the tow there. Replay up on your screens. We can see what's happened now. Very similar incident as to what we've seen before. Just losing it and then rolling back across the track by the looks of it. Almost taking out the driver of Lucas Leveille.
Yes, but he's got back going now. He's managed to unbeach that car and back on track. But yes, the true gap between Bennett and Grosser for the lead of this race, about 10 seconds.
And well, we've just had a bit of a wow moment in the commentary booth as we've looked at our timing screens and saw that Josh Chin has once again set a purple lap time. No surprise there. But the lap time, 1 minute 9.364. This is quality pace he's doing in a race after he's already lost it once. He's threatening to throw everything away to get this podium now, Neil. He is pushing the tyres off of that IRO5. If he pushes any harder, they will fall off.
Yeah, 1 minute 9.364 would be good enough to put him 6th on the grid in qualifying. Absolutely fantastic lap there by Chin as he comes across the line now. Does it set another purple lap? Just a 1 minute 9.58 that time around. 20 laps to go for Chin, and he's now 29 seconds behind the race lead. 18 and a half behind Robert Grosser.
You know, earlier on in the broadcast, Neil, I said that Josh Chin must have something hiding underneath if he's able to do like low 1 minute 10s, high 1 minute 9s fuel saving. This is the space that he was hiding away from everyone else at the start of this race, and he's all of a sudden turned around and gone, hello, I'm here now and I want to take some points away from you all, as I've only done half a season, so it doesn't really matter for me, as he heads himself through the S's for the 65th time. 19 more laps to survive. This is the bit where he's got to be careful. That's where he made the mistake just a few laps ago over the jump as he heads through Thunder Valley now. But Josh Chin really getting his foot down, and looking at my timing screens, it's just green everywhere, which means that he's gaining time on all three drivers ahead of him.
Yes, I believe that thing he was hiding was a rocket engine in that Dallara IndyCar, coming across the line again. It's down in 1 minute 9.342. What is this pace?
I'm not sure where he's finding this from. He's going faster and faster with every single lap. The gap between himself and Lucas Leveille now is down to 9.9 seconds. He's within 10 seconds of third place, and he's done that all under merit. Bearing in mind that Lucas Leveille has still got to pit, and he's going to drop another 10 seconds behind Josh Chin. Robert Grosser still 17 seconds up the road. Henry Bennett 27. Don't think Josh Chin's going to get a challenge on the lead, but if Robert Grosser has a really bad few laps or has a spin, Josh Chin all of a sudden looking good for second place.
Yeah, Chin all of a sudden looking good for second place. 18 laps to go here. That gap 17 seconds to Grosser. I think he may be able to catch him in the last couple of laps. We just have to wait and see. Of course, Grosser's last lap time was a 1 minute 10.3. Chin just coming through the carousel. What is his lap time? He's got a couple of lapped cars ahead of him that he needs to navigate coming across the start finish line now. His lap time that time round a rather pedestrian 1 minute 9.8.
Bearing in mind that some drivers couldn't even set that kind of lap time in qualifying, and Josh Chin is going out there and doing it in the race. He has got some traffic ahead of him, meaning that he is going to be impeded just a little bit. The first one is Andrew Adair Saunders. He has dealt with no issues at all. The other one is going to be a car who is behind Adair Saunders in the standings. That's Franz Josef Sturm in 11th place, because Klaus Peterson looks as though he's brought himself down onto the pit lane at some point. And he's dropped behind Andrew Adair Saunders now. Battle for 9th position between Davis Costello and Jan Hoffman as they head themselves through Thunder Valley this time. Broadway is also onto the pit lane to make his second stop after a 33 lap stint. This battle for position number 9, hanging itself through the carousel for the 66th time. Out of the final corner at the moment, Costello looks nice and comfortable in that 9th position, and Jan Hoffman just cemented in behind.
Hoffman's is cemented in behind for now. He's gone very, very wide at the exit of turn 1 there, actually. The battle of the 058 versus the 05. Costello versus Hoffman. And a little bit of a there for Costello that time round, coming into the hairpin towards the beginning of the lap, coming down towards China Beach, and Hoffman has the run right under the gearbox of Costello. Moves to the would be the inside for the big braking zone, and has it done. Costello just lifting off the throttle there.
And Costello's conceding a position to Jan Hoffman, still 16 laps remaining, so he does have an opportunity. Josh Chin, though, this lap does not have any traffic. Will he be able to go purple? We will have to wait and see. Battle for 8th position, though, so 8th now goes to the driver of Jan Hoffman. He's still off the driver of David Costello. Broadway is back out onto the circuit after a pit stop time of 8.4 seconds. Bennett, last time around, 1 minute 10.196. Grosser saying a 1 minute 10.119, so he's gone just slightly quicker than your current leader Laville. He's going to do a 1 minute 10.615, so he is a little bit slower. Josh Chin, it's a 1 minute 9.239. He's gone even quicker. He's only around 7/10 of a second off his qualifying time now.
Incredibly dirty.
No!
He's gone round, but that was a perfect 360 there from Chin. My God. What is that? That 1 minute 9.239 would put him 5th on the grid in qualifying. But that perfect 360 through the chicane, and I don't think he can catch Grosser anymore.
And in the words of our producer Randy Chenworth, who I may point out is a teammate of Josh Chin at Team Chimera, stated that he will still be quicker than half of the team's qualifying pace, even with that perfectly executed 360. Terry Grant, if you need an assistant, I can very easily get you Josh Chin's phone number, because that was an absolutely perfect spin. He's not for sale, apparently, as the car brings themselves down onto pit lane. I believe that is the driver of Davis Costello from 9th position on the grid. So just shows Josh Chin, yeah, he's pushing hard because he's setting purple lap times in clear air, but he's also pushing hard because he's doing all of a sudden turning an IndyCar into a stunt car.
Yes, that 1 minute 11.811 with that spin would indeed not put him on the back row of the grid that lap time. So very good job there by Mr. Chin. But yes, coming through turn 4 now. Lap 70, he's got 15. So that gap to Robert Grosser, 16 seconds. Can still do a second a lap and catch him, but it is a big ask.
It's going to be tough to do as he heads himself into China Beach. Just 7 seconds to separate himself and Lucas Laville. Laville, he's not going to do 14 laps to the end of this race after having done a 35 lap stint this time. I would expect him actually to come down onto the pit lane. Heads himself through the chute up towards the carousel. This is going to be the moment. Is Josh Chin now going to get his podium back? or are we going to have to wait one more lap to find out? No, we're not. Lucas Seville brings himself down onto the pit lane. This promotes Josh Chin back into third position now, because there is no way that Lucas Seville can get into the pit lane, as Josh Chin almost loses it again. Coming onto the main straight, he blasts past the driver of Lucas Seville. He did a 1 minute 11 point something on, I think it was a 1 minute 10, 1 minute 11 on that, on the lap he had the spin. It was 1 minute 11.8. Let's just point out that, yes, some of the drivers, they went slower than that in qualifying. Vessi Olia did a 1 minute 12.270. So Randy was right in saying that even though Josh Chin did do a perfectly executed 360, he was still quicker than most of the field.
Still very good there, lap there by Mr. Chin, and Lucas Seville cycles back out in 5th place just behind Timo Isinyemi, so that's going to be a battle to look at for the final part of this race, but that does release Joshua Chin from that traffic, well, I say a little bit of traffic there that he might have had to battle in terms of that number 2 car, but that last lap from Chin, a 1 minute 9.634, so certainly hasn't lost a beat after that 360.
No, he hasn't. And as he heads himself through the carousel, just ahead is Carson Brovey. Randy Shoemake has been down onto the pit lane. He's done his 7-second final stop, and he's back out and away. Joshua Chin this time around done a 1 minute 9.685, so it's not purple, but it is the fastest lap of that one so far. Heading on to lap number 72 of this event now. Into the chicane he goes. He has got a little bit of traffic to deal with. That is the drivers of the Carson Brodvey and also Randy Shoemake. Shoemake just come out of the pit lane from 8th position. Now he sits, and with everyone else, apart from actually everyone now, taking their final stop. So it's a case of a 12-lap blast to the end, Neil, separating the driver of Henry Bennett from the trip to victory lane.
Just a 12-lap blast, but of course, here at Mid-Ohio, anything can happen, and anything can happen in these 12 laps. Henry Bennett crossing the line, and now that last lap, a 1 minute 10.1 is lead over Robert Grossa, 9.3 seconds last time round. Robert Grossa comes across 1 minute 10.2. That gap staying, that gap just going at slightly up actually to 9.4 seconds. Question is, what will the qualifying master Chin do? Coming across the line just about now, a 1 minute 9.5.
Of course, Robert Grossa not having come away so far this season with a win. The first season that this has happened since the inauguration of the Classic IndyCar Series. The wins so far this season have gone the way of Henry Bennett. He's had 3. The driver of Matt Cook has had 2. Michele Constantini has had 2. And Adam Shipstone getting the surprise win at Belle Isle. So just 4 winners so far this season. Looking like we're not going to have a 5th. Is going to be going the way of Henry Bennett. Battle for 4th position between Timo Isinyemi and Lucas Laville as they head themselves down towards the speed trap in China Beach. Laville is closing in on Isinyemi now, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to challenge with that 4/10 of a second gap into China Beach.
Yes, coming into China Beach, the 33 versus the 2. Now coming through the technical section at the back of the circuit. There's a car off on the left-hand side there. Couldn't actually quite see which one it was. But yes, coming through the technical section. Over the second major bump in the track. Then down over the third now.
And as they head themselves out through Thunder Valley, through the chute, a very fast section of the course that you have to get very right. Otherwise it can all go very, very wrong. Laville closing in onto the rear of the Vortex car of Timo Isinyemi, heading across the line, start lap number 74. Next time around we'll be into 10 laps to go in this event, so it's very quickly closing into the fact that we will have the checkered flag very soon. You are watching round 12 of the Classic IndyCar Series from Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course with just 11 laps remaining. Of course, do not forget that in around 28 minutes time, myself and Randy Chenoweth will be bringing you all the action from Spa-Francorchamps. We head to the Ardennes Forest for round number 4 of the McLaren Shadow Qualifiers, and must be said, Neil, that is an absolutely great competition with a very, very lucrative prize at the end, and an opportunity which all sim racers would be lucky to get.
Oh, of course, a very, very lucrative opportunity at the end, as you said. But of course, Spa-Francorchamps, a very, very fast track, almost the antithesis to what this one is. Very, very fast, and requires a little bit of bravery around men of the the track. Robert Gross has had a big mistake that previous lap. He's lost about 13 seconds, and that means Chin's right on the rear wing of him.
Yeah, I just spotted that as they were coming across the line. Robert Grosser last time around 1 minute 24.3. Something went wrong for the German, and that's allowed the American of Josh Chin, the king of chins, to stick his nose into the left-hand side as they head to try to make contact.
No!
They're both in the wall, and Josh Chin, that's his day over. Robert Grosser does have another opportunity. We're going to have to see a replay of that one, but both of them make heavy contact at very high speed. Replay on your screens now. This is actually going to promote the driver of Timo Sinyemi. So looking at this accident, Josh Chin moves to the left, doesn't leave much room, and Grosser, not sure whether he knew that he was alongside, and both of them very hard into that wall.
Both of them very, very hard. That concrete wall on the left-hand side coming down to China Beach. And both those cars completely destroyed. But as you said, that'll promote Isinyemi up to second, Lucas Laville up into third. So that battle, which was for fourth, is now going to become one for second.
Yeah, and that's a big change for points and a big blow to Robert Grosser's championship, because with this it means that he's going to stay third. He's not going to score anything, and for Henry Bennett, plays into his hands even more. Josh Chin took the toe. His day is over. Robert Grosser's come down onto the pit lane to get the damage repaired, so that cycles this time around as our timing screens update with 9 laps to go. That is going to leave you. Let's take you through your top 8 as we head into the final stages. Henry Bennett currently in the lead. Timo Isinyemi in second. Lucas Laville going to round out your third position. Benjamin Gregory, he's had a very quiet day so far. He's in 4th position. Or will he? Because Robert Grosser hasn't yet got going. He has. So Robert Grosser cycles back out in 4th after that. So he's going to still score some valuable points. Might not be enough to get himself up in second in the championship. Gregory is 5th. Jan Hoffman having a good day in 6th. Battle for 7th between Randy Shoemake, Carson Brodby is that 7th and 8th position. Klaus Peterson and David Costello ran out your top 10. This battle for position number 7 at the moment as they head themselves through the carousel as Veseyula Olies hit trouble as he has... Yeah, that's fine. The producer's just getting a little bit confused with the calamities with Josh Chin as they head across the line to turn number 1. Brodby's not close enough to challenge this time.
Not close enough to challenge that time round, as you said, but still quite close between the two of them as they come through that right-handed hairpin for their 76th time. Of course, they're both a lap down, so they'll only be completing 83 laps, which means they've only got 6 to go or so.
And it looks as though Josh Chin, he's jumped straight out of the car, and we are going to have the opportunity to catch up with him before the end of this race. So, Neil, take it away.
Indeed, we do have the opportunity. We do have Josh Chin with us now. It looked like that you're at least in that first stint of the race, you're perhaps going to go for a fuel-saving strategy. You lasted so long on that first tank.
Yeah, that was kind of a last-minute call, and running around, I decided that, me and Henry had such a big pace advantage, there was no point really trying to push it, so I was going to try and save, but I spun out of the keyhole and kind of threw that up in the air and kind of basically let Henry run away from the field, but the car was still really good after that.
Then after that first stint in the second half of the race, it seemed like almost you decided to go into qualifying mode. So tell us about that. Did you then decide to perhaps do? Well, was the plan to do two shorter stints in the second half of the race?
Well, the original plan was that I was gonna basically take 3-4 gallons at the very end and just make it a very short stop, and then I had the little spin in the middle sector, so I had to come in, and at that point I just took my gas and took tires and said, okay, let's see what we can get for laps.
Then eventually tell us what happened just a couple of laps ago, and tell us your version of events.
Well, I thought I was giving Robert more than enough space. I was just trying to stay parallel with the straightaway, and it just kind of feels like he drove over into my right front. But, I mean, ultimately, stewards will have a look at it and kind of determine whose fault it is. Either way, we're both out of the position we were in, and takes away what probably would have been a pretty good battle. I was looking forward to try and get him there for third. I wasn't expecting to have the opportunity at all until he spun, and then it was kind of, okay, let's game on from here.
So what is going to be your plans for the rest of this season? Are you going to be doing any more of the races?
Yeah, that's the plan. Try and finish out the season. Hopefully actually finish one on a good note instead of with a wrecked car. But it was really fun racing Mid-Ohio today. I love this track and I love this car, so it was a good combo for me. And the rest of the season looks pretty fun as well.
Is there anyone that you'd like to give a mention on stream?
Got to give a thanks to everyone at Team Chimera for support. As usual, you know, we're a little bit busy with this week, so it was kind of a single car effort here, trying to get everything together. Normally we have more hands on deck, but we have SCO pre-qualifying going on, which I guess I'm going to go do in a second. So thanks to them.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us, Josh, and commiserations on that DNF.
Thank you guys. Have a good rest of your broadcast.
And there is Josh Chin. He was looking very competitive through most of this race, and now not so much. Heading into the final 5 laps of this event. Looking at the battle for position number 2 between Timo Isinniemi and Lucas Laville. Still 4 tenths separate them. Can Timo Isinniemi pick up from where Robert Grosser left off and still bring home Logical Vortex a second place finisher? Will Lucas Laville try and interrupt those plans? Head themselves past and through the speed trap up towards China Beach. Henry Bennett, he's still got a 43-second lead, yet he's still pushing that car to the absolute limits. A 1 minute 10.043. For Josh Chin, I don't think anyone's going to get close to his fastest lap time now, a 1 minute 9.239.
9.239, an incredibly fast lap, as you're saying. That battle between Isinniemi and Laville for that second place. Still very, very close. About half a second separates the two of them as they're coming through the carousel now, about to start lap 81, 4 laps to go.
With 4 laps to go, the battle's still on. Not much more going on in your field. All throughout, still 15 cars running in this race of the 22 that took the start. So we've had 7 retirements. They are Josh Chin, Vessi Ollier, Andrew Aitken, Marshall Stanley, Matt Cook, Randy Crosno, and Niall McBride, all deciding that today just was not their day. Niall McBride choosing to pull out of this event after just 3 laps. But for Henry Bennett, let's quickly talk about him. He's been great all day, setting fastest lap after fastest lap, and still he has only got 1 incident point, so he's had 1 off track at some point. So not doing what some other drivers do here at Mid-Ohio and using every single bit of track possible and a little bit more. So he's been very clean all day.
Yes, very, very clean all day, as you said, as Lucas Laville taking the shortest line possible around the track, let's put it that way, as he tries to gain some time on Isinniemi. But as we said at the very beginning of this race, it is so difficult to pass here at Mid-Ohio. Coming through the carousel across the last corner now, and across the start-finish line, 3 laps to go.
With 3 laps to go, that's all that's separating. It's not even 3 laps, it's 2 laps at the end of this one, so not too much more separates Henry Bennett. He could actually just lift off the throttle and coast into the end. The battle for position number 2 between Isinniemi and Laville, though, down to half a second between them. It was 0.2 of a second as they came up into the hairpin last time around. Not going to happen this time. Into China Beach they go. Laville's not going to be close enough. He hasn't got long left into the event to be able to get a pass done. I think Isinniemi may have a little bit more chance of holding on the longer that he is able to keep Laville behind.
Yes, the longer that he is able to keep Laville behind, but of course, we've seen throughout the race today, anything can happen at any moment of the race as they're coming up to lapped traffic now. It's Randy Shoemaker actually in that number 3 car, currently in 8th place around the car. He's being held up by him a little bit.
As he gets out of the way, they come across the line. 2 more laps to go for these guys. For Henry Bennett, it's about 1.2. So Henry Bennett next time around will be taking the white flag. There's the battle for position number 2 heads through turn 1. We'll keep an eye on those. But the focus has to go on Henry Bennett for this final lap. Through the carousel he goes. It might not be the finish that we saw on Friday night prime time this week, where we had 3 wide for GTE. and a P2 battle that went down to the very last moment of the drag race to the line. But Henry Bennett crosses the line into turn number 1. Last time around, fastest lap of his race so far, 1:09.476 as he takes the white flag. Head on to the final lap of the 200-mile race here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. He has had a quiet day. He did have challenge from the driver of Josh Chin. He did also manage to get himself past the driver of Josh Chin. There has only been 2 leaders so far today. That has been himself and obviously Mr. Chin, other than when they are battling. Battle for position number 2. Isanyami's still ahead as they head on to the final lap for those guys. But Henry Bennett into China Beach and the S's for the final time. Over the crest of the hill into the right-hander. And he is going to extend his lead at the top of the standings. This pretty much cements Henry Bennett as the 2018 Classic IndyCar champion. He's got 3 more rounds to go, and he's already got it done. Win number 4 is just 3 corners away for the Brit and the 007 machine. Through the left, through the right he will go, and just very steady now through the left-hander. And Henry Bennett going to take the win here at Mid-Ohio, cementing his place in Classic IndyCar history as the only driver to ever be able to beat Robert Grosser so far. Mr. 3-time has been defeated, and Matt Cook was not able to bring the challenge to Bennett in the end. Battle for second position. The Veal still going at Isanyami with half a lap to go now as they head through the S's and the chute. I'm not sure whether LaVille has run out of time. Into Thunder Valley they go for the final time. Down the hill, got to be very careful on the power over the crest. Through the right, through the chute. On the brakes for the left-hander. Just one more right and one more left separates these two. Timo Isanyami looks like he's going to be able to hold on. So Logical Vortex going to get themselves a second place. Lucas LaVille and the Frenchman going to bring himself home in 3rd. Robert Grosser, though, comeback of the century after the incident with Josh Chin. He's going to be able to get 4th, and Ben Gregory, the Brit, rounding out your top 5. In a few moments' time, we'll be able to take you down to your final finishing positions. But Neil, Henry Bennett, what a drive.
A fantastic drive there by the 007 car. Was arguably one of the fastest cars all day. Was battling with Josh Chin throughout that first stint, and once Chin had his incident, there's really no touching him. A fantastic win, a dominant win by 46.5 seconds.
That's a very dominant win. Of course, all of his competition was thrown straight out of the window. And hopefully it won't be too long until we can get an interview with him. But we are going to take you to your final finishing positions from Mid-Ohio in the Classic IndyCar Series. Henry Bennett takes the win in the time of 1 hour, 40 minutes, 10 seconds, 0.667, with an advantage of 46.5 seconds over Timo Isanyami in 2nd, and Lucas LaVille in 3rd. Robert Grosser going to bring himself home in 4th, Benjamin Gregory in 5th, Jan Hoffman in 6th, Carson Bromley 7th, Randy Shoemake 8th, Klaus Peterson in 9th, David Costello is going to round out the top 10. Franz Josef Stumm coming home in 11th, and Andrew Adair Saunders in 12th. Andrew Wood in 13th, Johnny Gray in 14th, Mike Gallagher in 15th. That is going to round out your 15 finishers. Josh Chin, Vasiula Ollier, Andrew Aitken, Marshall Stanley, Matt Cook, Randy Crosno and Niall McBride are all non-finishers. Jonathan Diggs, Adam Dodd and Caleb Weekly are non-starters. We're going to step aside for a very short moment here on RaceSpotTV and the iRacing Esports Network. We'll be back with a very quick interview with your race winner, Henry Bennett, before we head ourselves to Spa for round 4 of McLaren Shadow.
Last year I was sitting at a desk as a sales manager, and now I'm official McLaren F1 simulated test driver.
So it's 1.4 behind.
This opportunity is huge.
Oh, that's it, 46.1. That's faster than the factory McLaren driver, and he's done 6 laps.
Let's go race.
200 miles of racing later, and Henry Bennett has cemented himself off into classic IndyCar Series history. He wins race number 4 of the season for himself at Mid-Ohio, and he has cemented himself very firmly at the top of the championship standings. Henry, congratulations on a very dominant race today. That must Josh Chin in the opening stages. He was a very big challenge to your lead.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. Yeah, Josh, I think, had the slight edge on speed at the start. The only reason I got past him, I think, was because he was fuel saving. He was trying to do a Rossi and make it in one stop, but I think he just fell 1 lap short because of his mistake using the extra fuel after he spun. Yeah, he had a slight edge on pace to start with.
And of course, 3 rounds left in the championship. I know for a fact that you've got some points to drop, but with Matt Cook not scoring and Robert Grosser finishing in 4th, that takes Matt Cook now out of the equation for the championship. That cements you as champion for this year. Obviously, you won the Winter Series coming into 2018, and you've now taken the 2018 overall championship, if my calculations are correct. It's not been confirmed, I must say, ladies and gentlemen. But how does that feel, Henry, knowing that you're pretty much cemented as champion in this series?
Yeah, it feels pretty good. It feels pretty good. Yeah, I tried really hard to compete with Robert and Lucas last year. Came 3rd, and this year, I wasn't really expecting it to have such a lead at this point. But yeah, it feels good, and yeah, hopefully, yeah. Actually, I want to slightly. I might have to apologise to Matt because I think at the start. I don't know, I haven't looked at exactly what happened, but I think he was on my left rear tyre, and I think I went a bit wide and he had to go a bit wider after the start, and that may have sent him back in the pack, so that might have been something to do with him having a bad result. So apologies to Matt if that was my fault. Completely unintentional.
And well, before we let you go and celebrate your win with your team, who'd you like to give a shout out to today?
Just everyone at Powerslide, Robert and Lucas for organising, and you guys at RaceSpot.
And there is Henry Bennett taking his 4th win of the championship in 2018. That is about all we have time for here on a RaceSpotTV and the iRacing Esports Network. We will be back in about 10 minutes' time for round number 4 of the McLaren Shadow Project from Spa-Francorchamps. Join us for some very clever racing and some very action-packed racing as well. Go and get yourself some refreshments, refresh yourself, ready for an hour of action. Myself and Randy will be back for that. Do not go anywhere.